Ms. Nancy Hoogenboon. She's the founder of Daily Etiquette from at the Southern California School of Etiquette and Protocol. Her presentation is entitled Connecting Diplomacy and Stakeholders. Nancy Hoogenboon is the founder and CEO of Daily Etiquette, as I mentioned earlier. Nancy is also a speaker, author, consultant, and coach. Daily Etiquette trains and certifies others to start their own etiquette business. Nancy founded the International Etiquette Training Society, in which accredited etiquette trainers worldwide collaborate and learn from each other to make our world a more civil and considerate place to live. Nancy makes etiquette relevant and raises the quality of life and social interaction in today's society. A fun fact about Nancy: she trained an actor and dancer the proper etiquette to enjoy royal afternoon tea on the famous American TV show Dancing with the Stars. I now invite Nancy to dance with us this morning for her presentation.
Oh, how fun is this, Tanisha? I love that. Dance with us. Here we go. When we had the music on prior to chatting and learning from everybody so wonderfully, I was like kind of starting to rock to it and thought, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So here we are. Thank you so much for having me, Patricia. It's been an honor to get to know you a little bit and hearing this information. Olivia, I was writing notes actually as you were sharing. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I really enjoy helping people feel confident in knowing the proper etiquette and manners to have while we have conversations with each other or other countries, wherever we are at. And so that is my topic today. Feel free to write down any questions that you have, and I'm more than happy to answer them. And what I'd like to start with is communication. As we are all here having communication, as I'm looking at each one of you, wonderful ladies and gentlemen, we're having communication. And how beautiful is this? Around the world, we're having this. One of the most communications that we need to really be careful with is our communication online, because so much more is done this way. And I really like some of the questions, especially with asking about collaborating with other countries using office space and things like that, Olivia. That was a great question, because learning just to work with other people from other countries is so important. So what I'm going to talk about is our greetings with people, how we say hello to people, how we make them feel comfortable. We don't want to talk too fast and not being able to understand, because maybe we don't have everybody, English maybe is not their first language. So we talk a little bit slower so everybody can understand. I have found that in the etiquette society that I founded, especially there, that we have people that English is maybe their second or third language. And so we want to make sure that we speak a little bit slower and use words that are not words that like slang words here for me in America, or maybe where you're at, but actually use words that everybody would know what you're talking about. So as we greet people, it's important to look in their eye, as we know, but I want to say this is American etiquette. So there's some cases that actually you don't want to look them in the eye. You want to do a different type of greeting, because you have to know where you're at, who you're with, and who you're talking to on the country they're from, to know what's important to them. And especially when you're visiting other countries, it's important to have that skill of knowing what their protocol is on greetings. And I'll give you an example about this. Our son was studying abroad in Bilbao, Spain, and we went there, and it was delightful, and meeting his host mom and going to a special event at a museum. I learned that the personal space was a lot different than our personal space in America. Theirs was much closer. And so instead of backing up when people talked to me, I just stood there and listened. And even though it was much more closer, I thought, I'm here there, I'm here now in Bilbao. So I want to make sure that I actually learn their personal space to not make them feel comfortable if I have to stand back from them to give myself a little bit more space. So it's things like that that are so important. Sometimes people think that modern manners and etiquette and protocol is stuffy. And honestly, it is far from that. It's all about respect, consideration, and then respecting yourself also to know how to talk with people and have communication. So then handshakes are the way that we greet people here. I know that there's bowing, sometimes there's different ways. And we actually, in our society, had to talk about this, especially when the pandemic came around. We had to decide, let's give ideas and tools for people to know how to greet people, because you couldn't shake their hands because we weren't using the germ situation, and you weren't giving hugs to people because of obviously the germ situation. So learning, actually, we started bowing and maybe placing our hand over our heart when we would greet people. And I found that actually very nice to learn different cultures and how they do things. So then we can actually adapt them, because we're all in this together. We're in this world together and we want to make it a better world. And that is why we're here. So we can learn to work together and help others. Body language I like to talk about. And you can't really see me leaning, but if I had a wall over here and I was like leaning on the wall and just kind of talking to you, your personal body language is so important, because you don't want to be very casual when you're sitting there having a conversation with somebody. And you don't want to be looking at somewhere else while you're actually talking to them and looking around. You want to be looking at them. Now, that's if it's in your country that you do that. But body language can tell a lot about people. They can tell if they feel comfortable, if they don't, if your hands are crossed. Let me back up a little bit. If your hands are crossed like this, sometimes that here in America is showing either you're trying to be powerful or you're insecure. You don't know what to do. So you have to learn in your country what is important. So then you can actually make sure that you are careful on how your body language is. Another idea for body language is that we don't want to be talking and touching our hair and playing with it, because it makes everybody else feel uncomfortable. Even when we're on screen, it's something you have to do that needs to be done. Just put your photo back on and then do whatever you need to do, so then people aren't seeing you. It's distracting when you're maybe talking to somebody else in the room, or you have to take a phone call. And I've seen this a lot on Zoom. Is you'll actually be on the phone and having a conversation, and they forget to mic it or to turn off their mic. So it's just important to just think about those things. It's thinking of others, but it's also thinking of yourself too. How would you like to be heard when people are talking to you? So it's helping each other. Another area I think is important is networking, because here we are, we're all networking, we're learning about each other. I will probably, well, I will actually, not probably, I will reach out to some other people in here, because I think, oh, this was really interesting, and let me learn more about it. So as you're listening to speakers, a lot of time this can be the beginning of a networking place to chat about something. And especially, I really enjoyed learning about this spaces. I have to look back to see at the recording who actually asked that question, because I thought that was a really good question about sharing spaces instead of having one for each one. I thought that was phenomenal. It's right up my alley. And when we're networking with people, we want to listen more than speak, because we can learn so much more from listening. And when I mean listening, I mean actually listening and thinking of questions you can actually continue the conversation, not thinking about what you want to say and not trying to up somebody. It's important to, like, if you're having a conversation and somebody tells you about uh, something that they're working on at work, then if you actually come in on that conversation and you say, well, at my work, we do this and this and this, it's better to actually ask more questions about that. And if you want, you can say, well, I'm working on a similar project also. But then they can then ask you, oh, what type of project? But what you don't want to do is one up them, because you're there to have a conversation, but not take over that conversation. I know that there's a whole lot more to conversations about that with networking, but it's important that we listen more. And honestly, these things I'm sharing, as we all know, it's just as important with our families, when we're in a coffee shop, wherever we're at, with our friends, social and business, it's important. I have here in America, we do business cards, and I believe in most areas where you're at, you have business cards as well. So there um, it could be a little different. Sometimes people give you a way to do it online, give you information, but I like to carry a little card holder with me when I'm out and about. And if somebody asks me for their card, I like to open it up, and as you can see, it's nice inside. Whoops, you can't see. Here we go. It's nice inside, so you can take it out, and when you give them their card or they give it to you, it's nice to actually take the card and present it to them so your name is actually showing like this. And then if somebody presents it to you, however they give it, if they just go like this, that's fine. But it's just nice because you're honoring what they're doing. So then you look at the card and say, oh, you're an etiquette and protocol trainer. Tell me more about that. Or you can, anything that you see on the card, even if you don't want to, even if you maybe don't like what they're doing, but you can say, oh, I really like how your business card works and looks, excuse me, how it looks. And then, so have a conversation, not just take it and go, okay, and put it in your pocket. It's important to show people that we value them. I think valuing people is something that's so important now, because our skills, a lot of skills for adults, children, all ages through the pandemic. I have had more business now helping people to learn, go back into being social with people from the pandemic. And so I know that this has happened throughout the whole entire world because of the society that I have. We have shared where people, it's just changed. Life has changed. And it's helping people feel more comfortable and how to deal with things is important. One other item I'd like to show you that I think is fun, but it's been very helpful for me, is when you're at a networking event and you're having a drink or whatever it is you're having, you get a cup of the stem. And so I like to share the etiquette of this. When you are holding a cup of the stem, you want to hold it, excuse me, yes, you hold it by the stem, and you can hold it up here, but the lower here in America, the more sophisticated it is as you hold it. The reason why you don't want to hold it by the bowl is because you're warming the drink or you're cooling the drink, whichever way. So you hold it. What I like is that when we're networking it, we will have maybe a hors d'oeuvre given to us. So here's a plate, and I take the napkin that they give us and I put it between my fingers, and then I hold the plate, and then I will take a drink from my drink, and then I will drink. But then I place it back on to, you can see here, I place it back onto the plate. So I have my right hand free. So I'm able to actually shake hands with people. That's important because if you're holding a drink and you're holding your plate, it's very awkward. You don't know what to do. And sometimes you have to set it down. So it's just fun to learn new ways of how you can actually network and have it more comfortable for you. Now we're on to dining. A lot of people ask about dining. And my number one thing I share about dining is you can know all the proper things about dining and how to eat properly. But if you aren't kind and considerate and have good listening skills with them, all that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what fork you use, doesn't matter what knife you use. If you aren't looking at them, paying attention, respecting them, None of that matters. So I always like to preface this about dining etiquette, because that's probably one of the most important things that I've been asked about is dining. But honestly, it's people will always remember how they feel when they leave you, not what you did. They want to know how they felt. Did you make them feel comfortable? Were you listening to them? Were you uh, intrigued what they were talking about? All those things matter. So a little bit of about etiquette for dining is there's American and the continental dining. I have handouts, and so I'm happy to send them out to you, to email them to you if you'd like. You can just go to nancy@dailyetiquette.com and send me an email, and I am happy to send out diagrams that are helpful for people, how to lay everything properly on the plates for American style and continental. And there's also a different way in French etiquette, and I'm sure some of you here will have a different way. And I would love to hear that because each country has a little bit of different style. Excuse me. One thing when we're talking with people, dining, or we're actually dining and eating, we want to think about mirroring people. And what mirroring people is when you're dining, that you don't start before everybody gets their food at the table. Now, if there's more than 6 people at a table, then the area where you're at, you can start eating. But it's better at more than 6 people, you can do that. But really, if there's 6 to 8 people, you want to wait till everybody has something and then start eating. But what you want to do is not eat too fast or too slow. So if you're eating faster and you realize that everybody else around you is eating slower, you're going to want to slow your eating down and vice versa. And I find this to be very helpful because I'm sure this has happened to some of you here that you've been eating and somebody's all finished and then there you are all by yourself, not eating. And so it's important to just to mirror people as you're eating and also talking with people. If people are having conversations, you want to mirror some of that information. If they are very, like I'm more animated, as you can probably see. But if I'm talking to somebody, they're not animated, then I don't animate myself as much. I'm a little bit more conservative in that way. So it's important to just to look at not just eating, but your speaking way also to mirror a little bit of them. I do get asked this question about hosts and hostesses on when you are eating. And what's important is when you're eating and you have others eating with you, if you are the host, you want to make sure that you can see people that you're going to need help with, like the servers. And then also your guests, you want to make sure that they get the best seat in the house. So if there's a beautiful view out the window, to have them have that beautiful view. So you be strategically when you're actually helping people with their dining and eating. It's important. So there's so much more about modern manners and etiquette. I hope this has been really helpful for you. And I would absolutely love to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Nancy, for that excellent presentation. And I like how you basically give us a lesson in how to be the best diplomat we are, the best manager we are, all formal settings. And you're very clear to state that this is how we do it in the United States. Because as you know, in this conference, we have persons from various parts of the world. So it's not only that you're saying, okay, this is how it is, and this is how it should be. You're allowing them to, this is what is done in the United States. However, different cultures, different practices. So it's much of a takeaway, and it will be quite interesting to see how other cultures interact on that level. Because in our first presentation, it was raised in our presentations earlier, our cultural and language barriers generally come to the forefront when we have these formal settings. So it's really nice to have that little lesson that you just gave to us just now. I'm not seeing any questions as yet within our Q&A, but if anyone has any questions for Nancy, please feel free to post them in the Q&A. However, there are plenty congratulations for you within the chat, so you can take a read of those.
Just say thank you, Nancy. That was quite brilliant in terms of how you've demonstrated culture. And I think culture is very important. It's one of the things we have to take out of this conference. For sustainable development goals, we can't do that without really understanding culture. And in terms of personal goals, which I think is also very important, you know, culture has a way to reflect on our own personal goals. How do we begin to reflect on the SDGs from an individual point of view? And I think culture plays a really good one there. And I just think what you've shared is very relevant, even if it's a bit operational, because I know some people will say, oh, why did you bring it into all that? But, you know, we thought it's very important as well. So thank you for showcasing that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I may I suggest that if you're going to be going to another country or having conversations with them in your work, that you actually look into what their etiquette and protocol is. And honestly, you can start following some people on Facebook or Instagram, whatever social media you have, if you have that. And it's very helpful because you get to learn how they interact. And that's helpful as you talk to people in different countries.
Okay, great job. All right then.
Thank you very much once more.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.